welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. 4 reviews up this week, which is really kind of our normal amount of reviews at this point. Like, especially since we've adopted the practice of cycling in replacement games for reviews in recent times. More on that later, because that's relevant to this week. Like, been relevant for some past weeks, been relevant to some future weeks. It's a common enough occurrence where we have a game that doesn't work out for one reason or another, has to be replaced with another game. Like I said, more on that later, because our first game is The Wizard and the Slug. If you recall, we did an interview with Meridian 4's head, Jeff, this past Wednesday. And if you want to hear more about really more the marketing of the game, to be honest, development was there, but here's the thing: like Meridian 4 is the publisher of this, not the developer, and that's one of those things that actually plays into what kind of tack we take for an interview. But that's beside the point. But if you missed the interview, The Wizard and the Slug are the quasi-titular characters of the platformer. I say that because the Wizard, that's the first title they adopt, but it's not really fitting. It's actually a point of comedy in the, at least at first, in the actual game. What the Wizard is, that's actually a big focal point of the entire story. The Slug is actually indeed a slug. Kind of a interesting design because less slug.
It's like a slug slime thing.
Yeah, it's like less slug and more JRPG slime.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the slug.
You have like slug antenna things, and are
those are actually hands.
Yeah. They're still antennas.
Fair enough. But, and the slug has a smiley face on it. So, it's kind of a goofy design, which gets more interesting as the game goes on, let's say. Because, this is one of those games that someone once called a cheery lie, or at least it can be. Like, I'll admit, I did beat the game, but this game has multiple endings, and I got the bad ending. So,
yeah, there's a bad ending, a neutral ending, and a good ending, according to the achievements.
Right.
Or it says it has a white ending, a black ending, and a gray ending.
Yeah. And I'm not exactly sure what the conditions are for the other two endings. Like, I think I can guess at some of it, but that would be getting into spoiler territory. I'm like, anyway, so you play as the Slug, and you are tasked by the Wizard to do vague things, let's say. Initially it's a rescue mission, but that will change as the game goes on. Once again, a lot of this is in the plot, and this is definitely the most plot-heavy platformer I played in a long time. That's probably since Neversong last year. And I suppose that's important to note for not just how much story are you looking for a platformer, but I'm not gonna lie, the pacing on this game is kind of grating. Even though it's all text and everything, it suffers from cutscene syndrome. I'm not exactly
where you get stopped and have to listen to people talk for stuff.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Or get stopped and don't realize you can just walk past the thing. That happened to me a couple of times in the pretty short amount of time that I played the game.
Right. But it's there, and it's very prevalent.
I
If
feel
you're
like the creator was rather proud of what I think is a Barry Manilow joke.
It wouldn't surprise me. The writer clearly enjoyed the story they were telling.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the writing style is somewhat evocative of the writing style in Undertale, where it treats strange things very matter-of-factly.
It's
and also sometimes has characters suddenly change topics or whatever.
It's very of the time in terms of comedic humor, that. I think if there's a part of this game that's not going to age well, it's that. It's going to be characterized as humor from the late 2010s or the early 2020s. It's kind of like say Super Meat Boy. A lot of that is humor from the mid to late 2000s. I don't really have time to go into the breakdown here, but the humor here is not inscrutable, but you definitely have to be into web culture and shit like that to really get the most out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess isn't a thing that's really changed from online humor decade to decade. It's definitely an acquired taste. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
I don't. The whole rivalry between Mr. Banana and Mr. Orange. That. And you could feel it that it feels forced. And especially when it fucking dips into postmodernism, just his fucking joke set is that. If you if you despise Tim and Eric humor, that's another reason you probably would steer clear of this game, because this game does go into outright anti-humor at times. There's an art to that, let's just say. And at the end of the day, that's all the lesser flavorings of the tapestry of textures that's going on in this game. On the other side, in terms of its writing, its plot, that's really where this game's putting its chips, so to speak. Because in terms of platforming, I won't say it's completely basic, because it's not. Once again, if you want to see or hear us talk about an example of a truly basic platformer, just find one of our Rodalikia games reviews, like Mecha Bolt, just to draw from one. That was a perfectly serviceable but completely basic platformer. This game definitely has a lot of personality. Its mechanics are a bit vanilla, but that's actually not the worst thing in the world, because this is also the kind of game where the developer could have easily attached some weird fucking jumping physics or something like that and just ruined the experience. Had that happen.
Couple times.
The weirdest thing I ran into is that the double and triple jump heights are a little bit hard to predict.
Yeah, I'm you do get some serious airtime in terms of jumps, because you can triple jump. At least, one of the core things the game stresses is you do need to maximize the jumps. And those are further accentuated with either the environment. Very soon you'll be encountering heart platform what you have to jump when you are mini-sized.
Though at least you can hold being mini-sized.
Yes. I will say that there is quite a bit of depth to the actual jumping mechanics. Um, there's also later on, like there's smaller hearts where you use them to basically get an extra jump.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, you will get a dash, which will factor into the level. I suppose my biggest issue in terms of the design of the game isn't the mechanics; those are really sound. It's the actual level design. I don't think the level design ever got past average in terms of its structure.
Yeah.
Like like everything was solid in terms of um in terms of layouts. I will preface I didn't attempt any of the challenge rooms or anything like that, but those are extra bits anyway. I
There's
can't
a boss
say,
rush mode in the challenges and stuff, and
yeah, there's some extra bits here, and it's like nothing here gave me too much problem in terms of jumping. Combat mechanics similarly do have a bit more depth than you would expect from a platform game. Thankfully, it doesn't go into outright fighting mechanics. It isn't like you have a bunch of stuff that you have to keep track of, which can be absolute murder for an actual platform game.
Yeah.
those penguins look too much like Gunter.
I think that might be the point.
Yeah.
Like, but in terms of you get a couple of projectiles. You start out with your blue bouncy ball, and then pretty soon after you will get your shotgun discharge, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
It's officially called the spread shot, but when you say the spread shot, you probably think the contra spread shot. No, this functions more like a shotgun. A lot of little pellets that spread out.
Mm-hmm.
It's your weapon with the longest range, but it's also the weakest.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, you will get a fireball, an outright fireball. It's your strongest weapon. It's also your heaviest weapon. Like, it won't go very far, and you can't use it underwater. Granted, the whole not being using it underwater isn't that big of a concern. There are water sections. I am pleased to say they are perfectly fine because they don't change the fucking controls or anything. It basically, the biggest thing is you can float in the water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so no worries there. And yeah, that's about it in terms of the, base mechanics. Everything else will come through, the various challenges you will face. And like I said, the game isn't very difficult. Even like boss encounters, they won't give you much challenge. I will also say that you will get a few opportunities to play as the wizard, but really not going to talk more about that. And this is also not just a pure platforming game in the sense that you're going to level where you're just platforming. No, or you got the occasional alternate character sequence. No, like sometimes you'll visit towns and mingle among the populace, let's say. Like I said, there is a lot to this game, but I'm just kind of under the dictation that I can't talk a lot of it because it's the meat of the experience more than like the actual gameplay portion of the game. Uh, you know, that might be a bit weird to say. I think that's a lot less weird in today's age, we're in a post, Dear Esther, the Stanley Parable, there, ton of visual novels world. Like, in terms of its art style, it's and its graphics, it's a nice, clean, modern kind of art style, and graphics. Not really much to say beyond that. Like, I wasn't wowed by anything, but it's pretty workhorse outside of perhaps the original flair is given to the characters, the wizard and the slug and what have you, the various
the wizard's dialogue box portrait looks weird to me.
Yeah. Like, I can definitely say it's not, I know Jeff called this a retro style game. It's not. Like, there really is nothing retro about this other than you could make the case that it's a 2D platform game. Like, because, this is a very modern day platform. Like, modern design, modern sensibilities, modern writing, just, everything feels of the today. And, I won't call that a breath of fresh air, because, we play many different kinds of games and platformers. But it is nice to see when something stakes out on its own, so to speak. Music is similarly okay. Like, I can definitely remember some of it. Like, especially like the title track's pretty nice. Nice relaxing thing. I won't say the music goes up to platforming heights, but it wasn't completely generic. Just kind of the overall motif of this game in most regards. Because, where this game is really flexing is with its writing, with its story and its characters. It's just the mixture involved here is a bit subjective. Like, I think it's pretty solid stuff. Not amazing, but I can definitely tell. It's worth noting that this game does have an assist mode. So if you're having problems with it, you can turn that on. But anyway, getting back to what I'm saying here, like this game really wants you to experience its tale more than anything else. And, the real challenge is getting the best ending and stuff like that there. Like, I won't say that the actual, the platforming, the mechanics and all that stuff, they were a pure afterthought like some other games we played. But it is a bit vanilla as well. And once again, it's like, getting back to what we got here, we got a story-heavy platform game, which a lot of people might just out-reject because typical platform design is kind of the antithesis of what we see on display here. Typical platform gameplay is going to be like, your variety of styles is going to be in like the style. Is this Mario? Is this Sonic? Is this Mega Man? Is this Contra? On and on and on it goes. And especially for something like a left to right platforming game, seeing something this cutscene heavy is certainly not unprecedented. Especially if we're talking like the Metroidvania genre, but that's kind of more expected there than in here. So just a bit of a caveat. You know, I will say, like, you know, there were times when I just wanted the text to stop so I could get back to playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, yeah, I'm one of the people who really, really, really fucking despises the Metal Gear series for its endless pontificating about stupid shit.
Metal Gear?
You know, I won't say all of Metal Gear is like that. And it's not that Metal Gear never had good points, but dear God, sometimes it would belabor those points to fucking, you know, bleeding nothingness. Even in the first game. You know. And that's not even getting into when the series got really stupid, like in Metal Gear Solid 4. You know, I know 2's up there as well, but, you know, I think time and perspective has given that a lot more weight behind it. But that is a topic for a much later day.
Indeed.
You know. And see also various Final Fantasy games, especially the fucking PlayStation 1 games, where it wasn't just storylines, it was just cutscenes. Like, hi, summoner abilities you can't skip through. You know?
You mean you didn't love Knights of the
In
Round?
Fantasy VIII, there was a point to that. You were supposed to jam on your button as long as the whole cutscene was going on.
People did that, but that wasn't because they wanted to do the actual mechanic. It was because they wanted the fucking cutscene to end.
Well, no, like when you get the longer summon animation, you literally have a longer time to. Yes, it's still dumb.
I'm not saying there wasn't a point to that. I'm just saying that, you know, a common refrain from that fucking time period was, let me skip the fucking cutscenes. And, you know, they eventually Square Enix eventually relented on that. I mean, I think the worst in this regard was Batsun Kai. Xenosaga. Where
God.
you had like fucking cutscenes that were what, half an hour or
something like that. Yeah, I remember,
but,
in the
even,
beginning
like,
stages.
Final Fantasy VI has a half-hour ending cutscene, but that's just the very end.
Well, Xenosaga was go on and on.
Yeah, I'm talking about cutscenes, just regular ass cutscenes that had save points in it.
Yes. Be serious.
I am not lying about this. It's like, it's kind of why I stayed away from the Xenosaga series, just because, you know, there's been, you know, just because at that point you're watching a fucking movie.
Pretty much.
And, you know, I won't say that this practice has completely gone away, but, you know, I don't think storytelling has ever gotten that bloated in terms of just pure dialogue. You know, I mean, that's kind of, you know, that's one of the things about like modern storytelling in a lot of ways. It's not, you know, it's not just talk. It's a lot of, you know, environmental and diegetic storytelling. And unfortunately, this game doesn't really adhere to this. Like here in the volcano, like there's not really a story being told in its level design or its environment. The storyline is going to come after Petty scrolls off screen, and yeah, you know, you get to a, yeah, you know, you get to something like this, and this is what I was fucking talking about in terms of its comedy. Like, this is a fucking Tim and Eric sketch. Please tell me if it doesn't look like, because I'd like to hear your argument against it. As you know, like I said, this is very postmodern, almost anti-humor. To anti-humor.
Basically a big lip alligator moment.
Yeah. Like I said, this is very, this is very modern day internet comedy. You know, like maybe toned down from like 10 years ago, where, you know, just, you know, fucking laugh out loud random, you know, where random really was being substituted for comedy. Like, Like,
I mean, sometimes it's still funny, but
yeah, it's like no. Once again, there's an art to random humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's not
least,
bad. It's just there's a way of going about it.
Yeah, like, granted, humor can be, humor is probably one of the most subjective things out there.
It is.
It's also one of the purest things. Humor, you either laughed or you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, getting back to things, pricing. So this game clocks in at $9.99. And it also has the OST available separately for $10 on its own. And its bundle is $17.98 with, that's with the soundtrack included. Obviously, that's the best deal. Is this game worth $10? Yes, I'd say so. Like, once again, it's a short platformer, but it's got a lot to it. And there's, it's designed to have multiple playthroughs. Like, this game has 72 achievements, and you are literally not going to get that first time around. Even if you know where, like, the elements where to the secret ending, you still have to, like, get all 3 endings. You still have to take all the alternate paths, that kind of thing. And you can't do that in one playthrough. Mm-hmm. In terms of its worth, like, $17 with the soundtrack. The soundtrack's nice enough, but I don't think I liked it well enough to recommend it on its own. There is also the side-scroller 2D platformers bundle, which is a whole bunch of Meridian 4 games, 5 games. Once again, it's one of those bundles we can't make a judgment call on because it involves games we did not cover. But that's going for $40 currently, down from 25%. So that's $25, probably worth it at that price. $43, no idea. Anyway, so yeah, overall thoughts. Pretty solid platforming game. Has a bit of ambition in unexpected places. How well it jives, that's going to be a subjective thing. In terms of its more objective features, it's solid to good. Like, could it be better in those areas? Sure, but that's not its focus, and I can respect that. I'm just glad I wasn't, completely fucking bored playing through the platforming. So, what about you guys? Any other thoughts on the Wizard and Slug here?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I didn't get as far as I wanted to because I was spending time on the other game, which I also didn't get as far as I wanted to on. But that's another story.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you still have a couple of reviews to play through that.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty Fan will be reviewing a game called Zardy's Maze.